And welcome everyone to another installment of the Intentional Success webinar series. Today, we are going to talk about how to optimize management time. This is not about time management. You guys know how to do time management. Time management is kind of boring. This is management time, and this is really about prioritization. So I'm going to give you some tips on reducing the time subsidies that owners and management are putting into companies to solve problems today, but are creating problems and reducing opportunities into the future. And before the call here, I was talking about some of the successes my clients are seeing right now, and they're very happy with their returns right now. And all of them have followed this kind of advice in terms of removing themselves from the process so that they can focus on the things that matter most as business owners and managers and leaders. And so we will talk a little bit about what that looks like today. This applies to any size of company. Don't say, well, I'm too small to do that, Tom. No, some portion of this applies to every one of you and what you're doing. So for those of you who are new, I am Tom Stimson. I am the Stimson Group. I've been working with hands-on owners and management teams, primarily in the live events industry, but throughout the audio-visual space, manufacturers, design consultants, integrators, and everything in between, distributors. And I would be happy to have a conversation with you at any time. You can learn more at my website. By the way, new website, please go check it out. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you like about it, what you don't like about it. Much easier to get into the content library. The search engine is much better. I think you'll like it. Please stop by. This, of course, is being recorded, as you just heard, and the replay will go up later today, so you'll be able to access it. You'll get a reminder email about how to access it. The link that you've used in the past should continue to work, but I will make sure all of that is up and running at the end of the call today. We use the Q&A box for questions. Feel free to use the chat, say hello to each other, introduce yourself, say where you're from. Feel free to comment and disagree, because I probably won't be able to see it in the chat. If you've had a different experience, please share it. I am not the final word on things. I'm just the word who has the platform today. It is my podium today. Now, like I said, new website. If you want to have a conversation with me and talk about your business and how we might work together, or just want to simply float something past me to see if I can get you nudged in the right direction, we'll have an honest conversation. It's anybody who knows me, it's the only kind of conversation I know how to have. So if you want the straight dope, then schedule some time with me. Let's have a chat, and maybe we can do some stuff together. That would be awesome. So time is kind of the topic today. And as always, I'm excited to talk about these things. I get very invested in my topics, and this one is no exception. Great quote. James Allen is no one of great import, but I love this quote. I've used it for years. It's useless to desire more time if you are already wasting what little you have. And I deal with owners and managers all the time that tell me they don't have time to do the things that they know are important. But when I ask them what they're doing, they're often spending their time on things that somebody else should have been doing, but they don't have the time to find somebody else to do it. So you get this Ouroboros of false economies and inefficiencies in this time equation, and we've got to break the cycle. And I've found a few underlying non-truths, but underlying beliefs that a lot of people have that are justifying the time that they are wasting as managers and owners. And I want to poke a few holes in those today, as you guys know I love to do. So why this webinar? Why now? Because you guys call me, I talk to my clients, we have coaching sessions, we have group sessions, and I'm hearing things repeatedly that are solvable problems, which is why we talk, right? We want to uncover these things. We want to shine some light on it. In the current situation that we're in, you're running smaller businesses in terms of the number of people on your team. You may be doing the same dollar number of business, but you're doing less work to earn that money. But right now, everybody's busy. All right. There's a lot of work to be had. We have a huge amount of demand. We have very limited supply, which means you're busy. That's why, you're logging onto this webinar at the last second, because you have to finish the other thing that you're doing. So you have less staff, but we haven't always evolved the roles to work in a smaller business. We still have our constraints where too many priority roles are on one individual or two individuals instead of having shared responsibilities. We have too many people who are tied up on shows that should be planning the next show. Selling and planning projects, and I sound like a broken record because this is really important. You see it in my blog posts, you see it in my newsletter intros, you see it in my webinars. Selling and planning future projects is your highest priority. Working on them isn't. The work will get done. You will do a good job. But when you think in terms of job costs, that I have to stop what I'm doing for the show that's 6 months from now so that I can go perform on the show that is this week as a paid position, billable time, that's the problem. That's the false economy that we're creating. It is short-term thinking. It's hurting folks who are not paying attention to it. It's going to hold you back, and it's going to make your recovery from the past 21 months longer and more painful. So I want to nip this in the bud as quickly as possible so we can get you guys moving forward faster, making more money faster, loving it again, enjoying it again, and having all the fun and success that you deserve. So here's the typical bad idea. This is where it usually starts. I'm talking to the owner. I said, hey, yeah, he says, we need to work on that pricing thing. I said, well, great. I've got time. Why don't we get the team together? Let's go through that stuff. Because, oh, no, I can't do that right now because I'm tied up on a show for the next 6 weeks. Or my best client, they're in the studio next week and I need to direct. Or I'm calling a show here, or I've got to produce a show there. They're completely tied up in the delivery of something that they have sold, and they feel that they personally have to do it because it will save money and it will maintain the relationship with the client. And both of these are little lies that we tell ourselves, okay? They're an expediency, they're a shortcut, and it does simply kick the problem down the road. You're creating a problem later by improving job costs today. And that's effectively what you're doing. So this is a subsidy. Okay, I can save money by being the show caller. This is subsidizing the gross profit on a job today while you are ignoring customer retention, long-range sales, project planning, process improvement, employee retention, and all the other things that you should be doing as an owner or a manager. Okay. It looks great in the short-term snapshot of what could you be doing right now, but in the long term, we're neglecting things that really, really matter. And one of the things is replacing yourself as a show caller so that you never have to do that again. Now, there's other tricks that we all do, right? Your team, your customers, your suppliers need your time and attention. And they can't wait until busy season is over because honestly, you can't even tell me when busy season is anymore. We don't know yet what our customers, how they're going to behave and where their demand is going to be because we've not been in the market that we've been in this market before. It is new to us. We've never had a spring in this market economy for live events. So we're not sure if January is going to be super busy or super slow, or if July is still a slow month, or if December is always supposed to be dead. We don't have the data yet, right? So we need to turn down work so that we can create capacity to accept more work, right? There's some other tricks we do, like the salesman in a show position. Oh, well, I need some billable time. My salesperson isn't selling enough, so I need to get some billable time out of them. You can't sell if you're doing billable time, okay? If a salesperson is working on a show, whether they are billable or not, and oh, by the way, a lot of times they aren't, it doesn't matter. They shouldn't be there. That is not the job that they're doing. They are creating problems for you in the future. They're not doing their job. Okay. And you can't afford to hire more salespeople to make up for the fact that your salespeople are busy out managing a show. Right now, not everybody does that. Many of you have gotten over this years ago, but a lot of us went back to it in this pandemic economy where we're doing streaming events, and now we're sometimes doing shows out in the real world, and then it's a hybrid, and all of a sudden all of us are everywhere because we didn't plan for the kind of demand and we didn't put the team together that we need for the business that we're in now. The owner is the key account rep. This has come back up a lot lately. I've had this relationship for 20 years. Client needs to see me there. It is valuable to me. It's important to me to be the key contact for this customer. Well, that's not the same as doing the delivery on the job. So don't fall into the salesman trap of I'm the account rep, therefore I have to be on site and I have to be in front of the client. If you're the owner of the business, if the client ever sees you doing work that is a deliverable, okay, you're sunk, right? The game is over. Any mistake your team makes is now a reflection on you, not just a reflection on the team. You can no longer fix it because you are now part of the problem. I could go on for an hour about why an owner of a business should never be seen by the client actually solving a problem on job site and the problems that creates down the road. But trust me, it's there. And then there's the other thing that worked really well for us before the pandemic, which was going, oh my goodness, we're going to be really busy in February. We better add some staff, and then we can even sell even more. So adding staff so you can sell more is a trick you're playing on yourself, because the staff you added just folded into the staff you already have, and they will do the same amount of work with more people. And you know this. How many of you, if you send the right 4 people to a job, they can set it up in 4 hours. Sending 8 people to help them won't get it done any sooner. And it certainly won't get it done in less than 4 hours, because the work will always fill the time. And matter of fact, those 12 people might take all day to set up that show now. So be better at developing and planning your delivery, the fulfillment of the jobs that you have. And you can do it with less labor, less time, more efficiency, and therefore more profit, probably more accuracy and better customer experience as well. So you have a core group of people that should never be tied up working on a deliverable, a show. They should be managing the people that work on all of the deliverables, on all of the projects. That's where their skill is. It's not doing this one job, it's making sure that all the jobs go well. That makes them valuable all the time, year round. That makes them suitable to have as overhead in your business instead of a part-time cost of goods sold, which is another one of those tricks we play on ourselves. How do I know when I talk to a new owner, somebody who's coming to me for the first time, that their management team is ineffective? I hear these things, and I hear them quite often. We're really relying on one major account. Whenever I hear that you have one major account, it's 50% of your business, I know 2 things. 1, the owner is personally involved, and 2, you over deliver again and again and again for this client. And if you make one mistake, you're sunk, because you're going to over deliver to fix it, and the problem is just going to get worse. The owner is going to spend more time on it. The problem is just going to get worse, and you're never going to get the other accounts. This is a mistake that happened, and it was allowed to balloon. So I know there's a lot of management time being wasted and not being used for the right things in this organization. When I hear, we don't really do marketing, we've always done great with referrals. We don't need, my business development's not bringing me enough jobs. If there's no patience for marketing or business development, if there's that instant gratification need that I want to see a straight line between effort and revenue, okay, I know there's management time being wasted. Okay, this is very indicative of a misplaced value system that I'm trying to address today. And then My team is so busy. I've heard this all for the past 3 months. The team is busy. They're exhausted. And trust me, they are busy and they are exhausted. Okay. And there's nowhere for them to turn. And it's your fault. It is absolutely your fault because you are not putting your management time into solving this problem. Okay. You're probably in there rolling up your sleeves, working with them, which I'm sure they tell you they appreciate, but they really don't. Get out of their way, get them the help they need, do better planning, get them off of the jobs so that they can plan the jobs and hire the people to do them like they're supposed to do. Work will always fill up the time. Get people working on the right things. Okay. Now, in your old model, in your defense, your team responded to the work that sold. You had a team, they're on the bench. We sell something, they get off the bench, they run in and they go do it. Okay. In anticipation, when they saw you were going to be busy, they asked for more people on the bench because it makes it easier to manage future work. So if another job comes in, we got more people on the bench. It's just easier, right? Add more people to the bench, except the work will always fill the time. And you're also paying for those people when you're not busy. So we're starting to get that now. We're starting to understand that now, that we need on-demand workers and seasonal workers, okay, that are sitting on the bench instead of full-time workers sitting on the bench. But management has to do management's job 100% of the time to allow that system to actually work. You've seen this slide before, used it many times, the event production, death spiral. During the beginning of the pandemic, there was an urgency to make every dollar count. And I'm with you. I did the same thing. Everyone needed to be billable. If we sold a job, we had a stream, we had a Zoom assist, it was all hands on deck, but we still had to minimize our staff because we couldn't afford a lot of people. Your bench is going to shrink. Your team is prepping their own shows. They're over delivering because it makes their job easier. Which means that you don't have the resources to sell to someone else and there's no one to do it anyway. So you're not quoting on jobs. So you finish your busy 2 weeks and then you have no work for the next 2 weeks because you weren't around to sell anything. So the next job that comes up, you sell on price. And again, oh, well, we got to put the team on this. We can't hire any freelancers because we don't have enough money on this. And it keeps going. Now, fortunately, I think we broke out of that pretty easily, most of us. And we've moved into more of the agency style model, seeing that we've got to develop the outsource, even though I know your outsource resources are limited right now because in our supply chain, demand is high, supply is limited, but the supply behind us is also very limited. All the more reason management needs to be 100% focused on this part of the equation, right? Now, in financial terms, for those of you who care about that, and I'll only spend one slide on this, here's what's changed, okay? In our old model, the pre-pandemic model, we bought a lot of equipment, we hired a lot of technicians because the goal of the overhead that we invested in was to reduce the cost of goods sold to make everything we sell more profitable, okay? At that time, staff was sometimes cheaper than freelancers, and we could pass that savings on to the customer if we reduced our overhead so that we could sell more business. Well, what happens when everybody does this? Well, if you reduce your price, you take on more overhead so that you can reduce your price, then somebody else does it and they reduce their price. And then you remember that it's that race to the bottom. So we raced to the bottom. By the end of 2019, you guys were seeing some of the worst profit margins I've ever seen in the 15 years I've been consulting, and for the 20 years before that I was helping run businesses. In our new economy, in our new business models, overhead increases your capacity. It is not the capacity. It increases your ability to procure the capacity so that you can take care of the job. So you sell something and then you buy, okay? Your overhead is focused on customer acquisition and retaining customers, as well as planning and sourcing in your supply chain. It doesn't mean that you won't have some direct labor in your model, but not like you used to. Matter of fact, here's a typical ratio. This is a ratio of a high touch agency model where we're selling a lot of virtual events, lots of pre-production, lots of client handholding and planning. So I have half my team, which is sales and production planning. It's the project managers, producers, creative people that help nurture the client's ideas. And then I have a team of people who plan all the work getting done. It's basically the project management process, or as many of us would call it, ops, right? Then I have some energy that's devoted to constant improvement, which is who I'm talking to right now, you, the owner, senior managers. Your job is making sure that all of this works. And then I have a very small delivery team, a very small group of direct labor. And depending on your business model, these ratios are going to change. Okay. And there's not a right ratio, but the fact is there's a right ratio for your business. Because if your model is $2,000 rental delivery setup transactions and Zoom Assist, and your average transaction never gets over $5,000, well, you know what? Your delivery is going to be a larger portion of your overhead. Your process improvements are going to be pretty solid, so that's going to be a little bit smaller. Planning is going to become much more critical because you have a lot of moving parts, but it takes less energy to acquire and retain business, right? So looking at who you are and what business you're doing will affect how these ratios are. But in all of these, the delivery model, the delivery resources in our businesses are much, much less than they were 2 years ago. I hear but all the time. But Tom, really, come on. This is all theory, right? Nobody's actually doing this. Folks, my clients are doing this. I'd be happy to put you in touch with some of them and they'll talk you off the edge. But listen to me. When you come to me and say, hey, look, we're a full service rental company. We do tons of small events. We can't outsource labor on every job. No, you probably can't, okay? But you can employ the people who outsource labor on almost every job. You can develop the on-demand workers who are not part of your full-time team. You only pay them when you need them. It simply means that all direct labor is scheduled and supervised, which honestly is what it should have been before. All the hourly people you had before the pandemic should have been scheduled and supervised rather than, well, we work 8 to 5, but sometimes we work overtime and we just show up and the work just fills the time. And I ran a company like that. I'll share a management story with you. And this was probably back in 97, right? Just to give you a point in time. Some of you aren't born yet. So back in 97, I had 12 guys working in the warehouse and it was a mess and things would never get done and everything was last minute. Everything was urgent. And we were taking rental orders and grabbing 2 guys from the warehouse, throwing them in the truck to go do an emergency delivery setup. And we're sending somebody else in the van to go down to the hotel to deliver the stuff that we forgot. And this person's doing that. And it was a mess. And we solved it 2 ways. And I solved the sell side because that allowed me to fix the other side, but I could have done it the other way around. The sell side was we raised all of our prices on the things that was very labor intensive. And we charged a lot more for those. So only our best clients paid us 50% more so that we could do those things. And the best clients always called much, much earlier so that we could plan better. But the other thing I did is I reduced my team from 12 to 8 and then to 4. 8 made us more efficient. 4 made us super efficient. And 4 people with an extra 2 hands here, an extra 2 hands there, and they were knocking it out. Eventually, we went to the type of crew where we had 4 who showed up early, 4 who showed up late in the day. They overlapped by a couple of hours. Basically, we ran a 12 to 14 hour shift. That was the most efficient of all, but it reduced my direct labor costs in the warehouse substantially. Overtime was down substantially because it wasn't 12 guys going into overtime. It was 4 guys going into overtime, and they still got the work done. So lots of different ways to think about your business. Another but is, our clients expect their account manager to be there, right? I can't start charging for that. Well, good. I don't want you to charge for your account manager. I want them to go up, shake the client's hand and get the hell out of the way and get back to doing what their job. Because if they are on show site, they are not filling their pipeline. Okay. You need to make them unavailable for shows, unavailable for site visits. You need people to do that. And if you want to make good use of your time as an owner and you want to fix this problem, you go out and shake the client's hand, because the client would rather shake your hands than a salesman's any day. It means a lot more to them that you showed up for 15, 20 or 30 minutes, but please don't do any work. Push a roadblock, sure, but don't be responsible for getting the work done. Get in there, meet some folks, laugh with the guys, get out of there. And then here's the other one that I hear all the time. Well, Tom, our gross profit is really good. We must be doing something right. And I said, okay, show me what your net profit is. Well, we have a lot of expenses. Oh, well, I pay myself a big salary. Oh, well, no. Okay. As an owner, and not everybody on this call wants to hear this, but as an owner, your first priority is to make sure the return on investment is commensurate with the risk that you're in. And we're in a risky business because, number one, it's seasonal, and two, it's driven by human capital. You can't ask for two more difficult components in running a profitable business than that. And that's what we live with every day. And we're not getting our clients to pay what that is worth until now. And what I want more than anything is for you guys to not let go of this. Hold on to this. This is what we were doing. I'm dating myself again, way back in the 80s. These are the profit margins we were seeing. You need to be seeing them too. You need to be planning. I had a call with a client this morning doing their 2022 budget. And I got him to stop breathing for a second because I told him he needed to pick the revenue number, and then he needed to pick 25% net profit. And he needed to put it in the management team and tell them to fill in the gap in between. He goes, I've never done 25% net profit. I said, yeah, you did. Remember when? I took him back to a time when he did, when his business was very small. So tell me how that business worked. Okay, that's how you look now. Okay, you have a management team that is focused on acquiring and retaining business. You have an ops team that is planning business. Most everything else is outsourced. And look at the profitability that you're seeing. And if you could duplicate that in the 10 out of 12 months that you have enough revenue, okay, look how profitable you are. So change your expectations. For a business this risky, 20% net profit is not unreasonable. So this brings me to not quite my summary slide, but we're almost there. Here are the things. Here are 10 things that I think are extremely high priorities for management to be focused on right now in the business that we're in and the market that we're in, with where we are in our evolution and our pivots in this strategic moment. These are my top priorities, and I could do a webinar on every single one of them, but I'm not going to. Number one, right now, because our biggest constraint is talent, you need to spend a lot of your time recruiting and retaining talent. Maybe you are not recruiting and training them personally, but you're making sure that you have the resources dedicated to do that. If you have a recruiter, you need to have a training program, because right now recruiters cannot recruit trained people. You have to provide training, and it's paid training. And oh, by the way, you have to pay those unskilled people twice what you had to pay them before the pandemic, which says more about what we were paying people before the pandemic than the pandemic itself, right? So we've got to fix that. And does that create some problems with the hourly people you have on staff that you're just now getting back to your 2019 pay scale? Yes, it does. And you need to fix that too. You need to optimize your billing and invoicing and collections, because if money can't flow through your business without friction, it will eat up your time, right? And we have an ability to do progress billing, to do advanced billing, to get deposits. You can run your business on other people's money if you set it up correctly, and you can make it work smoothly and quit losing sleep over your cash balance. You need to run your business better. Better costing, not pricing. We'll get to pricing. You need better costing. This is operations. Sales support. This is operations. Long-range planning. This is operations. These things need to get better. We need to be looking 3 and 6 months ahead at projects and how are we going to do them. We need to know what things cost so that sales can sell at the right price. You know, we can't expect sales to sell at margin if we don't know what it costs in the first place. Which brings me to improving your sales pipeline and forecasting. How many of you told me that it's impossible to forecast right now because clients aren't making up their mind until the last minute? Listen to yourself. The clients aren't finally deciding what they're going to get until you've educated them about what their choices are and led them to that decision. They decided to do business with you long ago. That's like complaining about a guest who's sitting down in your restaurant and looking at the menu. Well, they looked at the menu for too long. What did you do to help them understand what their choices were and at least get an hors d'oeuvre coming out? It's the same model, okay? You want to improve your sales pipeline and your forecasting? Get the customer engaged with a transaction that involves money, and you're there. We don't have to know what the job is. We never know what the job is until we're done with it anyway. We don't have to know what the job is 6 months or 6 weeks in advance. We just need to know that the client is going to be engaged with us and we are going to support them in whatever it is they end up wanting to do. Okay, if all they want is dessert, we're going to give them a great dessert, right? Next, developing, funding, and executing an actual marketing plan. We can't skip marketing anymore because you don't have the people to go out and find sales. And that's what marketing does. Marketing softens the beach. It spreads your brand awareness. It gets people to know how to learn about you, and they will learn about you on their own. You don't have to go do it one person at a time, which is very labor intensive, right? So you haven't done that because you don't have the time. You need the time. This is a priority. Supply chain. Again, we have constraints, which means that you need to make sure that you and your team are sourcing better suppliers and improving your relationships. Okay. You know, we want to do business with people that we like and trust, and we want it at a fair price or a fair value. All right. Your suppliers are just like you. All right. So spending time with your supply chain, because right now you need your supply chain more than they need you. They have plenty of business, just like your customers need you more than you need them. But that doesn't mean that we treat them poorly. Okay. We find a ways that we can work together, but they have to understand your value and what you deliver and what you're worth. We always have to reduce overhead costs. It's going to be on any list that I put in front of management, but it's even more important now. We're doing a lot of budgeting right now for 2022 with my clients. How do I budget for 2022? It's really simple. I look at the overhead team that I have now. I see how much business we're able to produce. I make sure that my pay is correct. Do I need to raise them to get them back up to where they need to be? They do need to be higher than they were in 2019 now, because again, we have labor constraints, so labor is more valuable. So you better pay your people, because you're going to ask them to go out and hire suppliers who are going to charge more than they used to charge. So you better be paying your people better. So that is my basic line overhead costs. My course corrected payroll and overhead expenses. I put a revenue on there with my average cost of goods sold. If I can sell 5% better and deliver 5% better, I just drop 10% to the bottom line. Okay, so fix your overhead, optimize it. And if you're selling $5 million this year with this overhead, there's no reason you can't sell $7 million next year with the same overhead. Okay, you might be able to sell 10. Okay, overhead doesn't have to grow to sell more business. The supply side does, which is why you have to be working on sourcing suppliers, right? Business metrics. Yes, they matter. I'm not a big fan of huge dashboards and reports and stuff. All I care about are actionable metrics. If I see a metric, if it goes up, that tells me to do something. If it goes down, that tells me to do something. Metrics just for information or comparison purposes, I think, are a waste of management time. There is a place for them in long range looks, But in the short term, I need to know what the indicators are. Inquiries, quotes, demos, capabilities pitches. Okay. These are measurable metrics. Okay. The number of labor calls I have to place versus the labor that actually works. These kinds of metrics that tells me what's the ROI on the effort that we're putting in. Am I having to make 50 phone calls to hire one person? That's a problem. How can I fix it? I can reduce that cost. Number 9, speaking with clients to better understand their needs. Just because supply is constrained and demand is high doesn't mean that our clients aren't important. Our goal is to say no to better business. We want better clients. We want to be unavailable for better business so that we can do even better business. You got to talk to them. You have to understand their needs. Had a coaching call the other day. Longtime client, my client's longtime client suddenly went kind of flaky. She used to sit down and they'd have discussions about the events, and they'd kind of, talk about the needs and put together a budget, and then she'd go sell it. And now she's taking quotes from jobs they did in 2018, emailing them and said, I need this again, but it's different dates and different venues. I don't know what they are. And my client's going, wait a minute, I can't do business this way. And I said, look, you need to talk to your client. Okay. Obviously she's harried. She's got a lot of demands. She doesn't know what to do next, and you can help her. Okay. But you got to catch her. You got to say, hey, look, here's some ways I can help you. You're obviously busy. Tell me what's going on, and let me give you some tools so that you can get quotes out faster, because she's trying to take care of the business that she has, because she's probably not outsourcing enough, but she's got clients asking for quotes for jobs in the future, and she's trying to keep her pipeline full. Solve her problem, you will be more valuable. Talk to your clients, right? Now, everything on this list has an obstacle in it. Management's job is to remove obstacles. So when your management team comes back to you and says, but we can't do this because, the honest conversation you need to have of how are you and I going to remove that obstacle, because that's not a good enough excuse. Okay. That obstacle is in one of these other boxes. And the reason I chose these particular 10 things, and oh, by the way, you could write 10 more and probably have while I've been talking, is because they're all interrelated. It's all connected. So the more you talk about it, the more you understand the problems you're trying to solve and see which box it's coming out of. Your operations manager is coming to you and says, we can't do this because you haven't spent time on recruiting and retaining talent, right? And it's all going to come back to you. The buck always stops on your desk. And that's why I'm here to help. I want to help you get through this. I want to get you to focus on the right things. Support your team, support your customers, support your suppliers, make some more money, and please, please, please have fun, because I really want this business to be fun again for you. So I'm going to get to Q&A here. Please, anybody, if you want to drop something in the question box, that would be awesome. I know I put some challenging ideas there, and I don't mind the hard questions. Sometimes you guys really make me think, and it means my next talk will be even better. Just to summarize, get out of the business of creating capacity so you can sell it. Sell demand, then fulfill it. And get your management team to repeat those words back to you. Okay? We need to sell first, and then we will fulfill. And the best way to fulfill is with a temporary resource. And if you have enough metrics, you can put in a permanent resource when it makes sense. But you're not going to do it because of this one job. You're going to do it because of the 10 jobs going forward that takes you on into 2023. Resources that are waiting to be used are a waste. And I know you know this because you see gear on your shelf, it's collecting dust and it's making you go crazy. And you're right, it is a waste, but it is also a sunk cost. I am more concerned about hiring full-time people for part-time or seasonal work, because otherwise they won't be available for you. There are other ways to solve that problem. What you pay people is different. What is it worth to them to go back into the workforce has changed. You need to respond to that, and do not worry, your clients will pay for it. Okay. And how you pay a person is academic. How you utilize them is strategic. And what I mean by this is whether somebody is on your in the US W-2 payroll, or they are a 1099, or they're working for a subcontractor, okay, none of that matters. All that matters is, are they on demand? Are they only working for the work that doing the work that you hired them to do in the time period that you specified? Okay. You can have a full-time person who works on demand and scheduled. Retail and restaurants have been doing it like this for decades. You can do it too. Your workforce is actually kind of expects it. It's hard to find people to work a 9-to-5 job anymore. And oh, by the way, we want you to work nights and weekends because that's when our shows are. So how you pay a person is academic. How you schedule them, how you utilize them is what really matters. Please consider all of that. All right. I'm going to stop the share because there's really nothing else on my slides that matters. And all right. Pop a question in here for me. All right. All right. So, I mean, the question, I mean, okay. It's one of the but questions. What if the owner has worked with the client for 20 years? And the client really does expect them there, and it is important. And I know I kind of talked about that, but we all think our situation is a little bit unique. Again, it's 3 shows and you can fix this. And if you can fix it in 3 shows, you can fix it in 2 shows. If you can fix it in 2 shows, you can fix it in 1. If the owner has been the show caller or the executive producer on site for years, all you need to do is take away the one job that requires them to be on headset for telling everybody else what to do, whether it's a director or producer role. Get them out of that role. The way you get them out of that role is you slap a wireless headset on them with a party line to the client. You stand in the back of the room, you talk to your client, you can switch over to the show comms and deliver a message. Once the client sees you do that and you're no longer calling the show, but you're holding the hand and they're comfortable, the next step is to make them comfortable with the person who is calling the show, right? So there are ways to get out of this. Oh, I have a bad back. I can't do this anymore. My doctor says I can't sit on a show deck anymore. I can work from backstage, but I can't see the show, so I need to have a different show caller. One show, next show, you move a little bit further away. Next show, you move a little bit farther away. So there are ways of doing this. You just have to be willing to do it, and you have to believe that you can replace the client's perception of your value with people who are actually as competent, if not more competent than you are. And you can do this with just about anybody. Bob always has to be my audio engineer, or Kevin has got to be the director, or Sally has got to be our LED tech. You can overcome all of this, and you can do it in 1 or 2 events and regain confidence and have a bigger team and have more flexibility with your resources. And it is, trust me, a very high priority. It always has been. It always has been. All right. What if my employee costs less than what I spend on a freelancer? There's a whole bunch of data here. Freelancers in our market are costing $50 an hour. I'm hearing that a lot. And they're not as trained or as competent as they used to be. So the crummy guys are now $50 an hour instead of $35 an hour. I get that. But I've got employees that are $25 an hour. I know that's $25 plus some employment costs, plus benefits, plus, and then plus all the time that you pay them where they are not direct billed. So what if my employee costs less than a freelancer? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to argue with your math, because the cost of your employee is everything at overtime. They're never at regular time. Their cost is overtime, and the replacement cost is still going to be the freelancer. So an employee at $25 an hour plus at overtime is costing you $45 an hour. What are you going to do with that information? Well, we could charge the client less. Why would you want to do that? Right? Your replacement cost is still $50 an hour. So it's one of those false economies. And unless you can schedule that employee on demand, where all of their work is billable, the fact that they're less than a freelancer is moot. Because if they're working 60 hours a week and 40 of them are billable, the freelancer is now less expensive. So hourly employees work on demand, 100% scheduled work. What else do I need to say about this? We're talking about replacement costs. Oh, and we might need them. We keep them on staff because we might need them. That is a job cost. Okay, that is above the line. That's reducing your gross profit on all jobs, not just the jobs that not improving the gross profit on the jobs they worked on, is reducing the gross profit on every job. So think long and hard about those things. Other questions? Okay. Yikes. Yeah. All right. So how do I get salespeople to do more than just take orders? This is the classic. How do I get my salespeople to go out and find more business? You know, we have a lot of business, but we want better business. We want them to go call clients, but they're too busy just answering the phone or taking the easy jobs and writing quotes for things but they aren't our ideal business. I get that. How do I get salespeople to take more orders? Couple of issues here. One, what you're describing for me are not salespeople. Okay, they are order takers, and order taker is a perfectly honorable profession. It's definitely a valuable part of what you do. What you're saying is that you're expecting salespeople to work in more of your sales funnel. So you have a sales funnel, which is lead acquisition, prospect management, opportunity management, job management, and you want salespeople to work well, which one of those things are they going to prioritize? They're always going to prioritize the job management that's in front of them. They will prioritize opportunity management because that's writing a quote and getting another job. And that's typically about as far up the funnel as they can get and still be effective with the things that their primary responsibility is. This is going to sound really counterintuitive, given all the things I said about keeping overhead down and headcount down. But a lot of the role redistribution in our new model is smaller roles, not bigger ones. Now, you don't need operations managers doing more things in operations. You actually need them doing less things because you can outsource more things. So I can take the sales funnel role. If I need a salesperson who's out there finding new business, courting new business, and when there's an opportunity, turning it over to a salesperson or account manager who's going to process that business. All I did was take a big sales role and I split it and made it 2 sales roles. So if you're going to have 2 salespeople, have one that hunts and one that farms. All right. And if you put your hunter into farming, they're not hunting. And if you put your farmer into hunting, they're not farming. Right. So it's smaller roles. There's oh God, I could do a whole webinar on batch theory. Creating smaller batches of work actually increases throughput. Creating bigger batches slows things down. So breaking up traditional roles into smaller pieces like project management, great example. What most of you call project managers in your systems is 5 jobs. 4 of them can be outsourced, okay? One of them could be your staff person who could do that role for every single job you have. All the other roles could be outsourced on every single job you have. But we're not used to breaking the jobs down into smaller and smaller pieces because we think we're being efficient by having it all in one person. But in fact, it's not efficient. It's slowing the process down. So question is, should we start thinking about raising prices? If so, how much? Yes, you should have started thinking about raising prices 20 months ago. It's not too late. How much is a lot. If your labor prices, you take your 2019 labor prices for a specific role, if you haven't raised that labor price 50%, okay, you're probably losing money on labor. So I'm seeing labor prices up as much as 100% for certain roles and markets. Talking with folks this past week, finding a freelancer who used to come in and run audio for you for big ballroom gigs, and they charged you, $500 or $600 a day, can now charge $900 a day to sit in their basement and run Zoom conferences. They don't want your work. So your cost of labor has skyrocketed. And if you're showing your clients all of the math, that's a different problem, but your prices should be up dramatically. Equipment prices have gone up. Basically we have a logistics constraint. So even though you could sub-rent the gear readily, you can't get it to you without spending a small fortune. So your replacement cost is high. Therefore, even though you have the gear, you should be charging more for it. But having said all that, your clients don't actually care which gear it is. So you can almost substitute just about anything as long as you're making the deliverable. So a lot of the things that we've talked about in the past as being important have changed in this current economy. But yes, you should, for the same work, I would expect you to be charging overall in the aggregate 30% more than you were charging pre-pandemic if you actually had something that was the exact same work. And most of that's going to be in labor and logistics. All right, and here we are. We're right about the end of the time here. Next webinar, of course, is a month from now. We do this every single month. If you've registered for this one, you should have it on your calendar. And I don't remember the exact date of it off the top of my head. But of course, you also get the reminders a week in advance and a day in advance, letting you know when the webinar is, and I hope you will be there. Many people asked me at InfoComm 2 weeks ago when I was going to go back to doing in-person seminars like Jumpstart, and we're still looking at it. It's much easier now to do those things. Is it the right time to do them for my audience? Not necessarily. I still think being able to deliver some things virtually, and so we're looking at some virtual courses. The long or the short of it is, if there's something that's valuable to you that you would like to see, send me an email. I'd love to get your input about it and see if there's a way to deliver those things. A little bit of market feedback doesn't hurt getting me motivated. Your questions always motivate me. There's not a blog post that goes out in the Monday morning newsletter that wasn't motivated by something that you folks have asked, whether you're my clients or just colleagues or interested parties or followers. All of these things are quite important. So once again, thank you all for being here and for being with me. When I know right now you're probably very busy. I hope you get a breather. I hope you get to regroup and spend some time with family next week, for those of you in the US celebrating Thanksgiving. And you know how to find me. Reach out anytime. I'm happy to talk with you about just about anything, and we'll get you moving in the right direction. So be well, thanks, and have a great show.